Hello and welcome to the show. Today I, the Beledorian, will take you through the mystical journey of my user interface on the World of Warcraft in patch 6.1. Now I mentioned the patch there, as Blizzard tend to find really great add-ons and say, hey, let's integrate that into our game as a baseline for the players. And so if you're watching this in the future, and I mention things that already exist in the game as the baseline, I'm sorry, I'm just a bad human being. Right, so, let's get on with the show, shall we? Number 1. Lvui. Lvui is a complete user interface. I find it preferable to the standard UI as it is easily customizable. The main thing that I find with the customization in general is the option that you can have your action bars exactly how you like them. I personally like to have them like this, in 3 rows. To change anything, you just go to the options, which is the C next to the minimap, and press toggle anchors. As you can see, you can simply drag and move anything anywhere to your preference. Also, within this add-on, you can change key bindings on the fly. To do this, simply type /KB, and then hover the mouse over the spell icon and press the new key binding. This also works for the extra action button. Also, in Lvui, I like to move the character portraits to my preferred place on the screen, down here. And I have the 3D portrait of my character on there. To do this, go to the options, and go to unit frames. Select the player frames down here and use the drop down menu to go to portrait. There are many options here that you can just mess around with to your preference. This is how I prefer it. Finally, the best part about this for Balance Druids is the ability to move your Eclipse bar. Now whilst you're on the player frames, on the drop-down menu you can select Class Bar. Check Detach Frames, and then use the toggle anchors that I showed you before to move to your preferred location. As I said in my Balance Druid guide, I really recommend that you put this about the middle of the screen so you can have this in your vision at all times. Number 2 is Scada. Now there are 2 main ways that you can track your DPS and healing. That's Scada or Recount. Now I like them both, however in Scada you can have multiple windows. I use this so you can see both the damage and healing at the same time. This is simply a quality of life difference to me. Now, tracking is actually really important. It's not that important to be matching yourself against your friends and trying to be the top DPS ever, because there are times when you're the top DPS for all the wrong reasons. For example, a fight in which you should be focusing down an individual, but you decide to cleave, which actually could be a hindrance to the raid. And when you do this, you end up at the top of the meter. Now this is bad because you look bad. Your numbers look good, but as a player, you look bad. And a good raid leader will look at this and say, hey, why are you doing this? Why do you have, for example, Blade Flurry on? You should be focusing on this person, etc., etc. Now this could cause you to eventually lose your spot within that raid group. And the raid leader should be prioritizing anybody else who's doing the correct tactics. And nobody wants you to be that person that gets kicked out. Now you should be tracking your DPS to make sure you're doing everything you can do to maximize your DPS in the correct places. See what abilities are lacking or missing from your rotation, and see if it's a mechanical issue with the fight that you just have to accept, or if you're playing bad. Now 9 times out of 10, it's you playing bad. Now there's always something that you can do to be a better raider, and this helps you find out exactly what it is that you're doing wrong so you can fix it. Number 3. Power auras. This is the reason why many of you have asked me to create a video on this topic. Now, power auras is not something you can simply find somebody on YouTube or online and say that that's exactly perfect, that's exactly how I want it. And that's the truth of it. However, you can see things and go, oh, I like that, and you want to add it to your own. As such, I'm going to put my entire string in the description below. You can then chop and change to how you like it. The ones I have set up are as follows. Empower Moonkin buff. Now I track this because I like to know exactly when this happens, and if I'm moving etc, I know that I can throw out an instant cast of Starfire without having to stop. It doesn't happen much in raids because you shouldn't really be being hit, but this is more like a quality of life one. If it happens, you know you've got it, you know you can just throw it out quickly. Lunar and Solar Empowerment buff tracking. This is simply so I can see which buffs I have up and how many stacks of it I have. It allows me to know when I have to refresh each buff, if at all, during the encounter, and which ability is going to do more damage within the certain eclipse. Celestial Alignment cooldown. This is just so I know exactly when this buff is up. And as soon as it is, if within the next 15 seconds of the fight I'm stationary or in a good position to throw out some burst, I know I have this available without looking away from the danger. Please note, this is incredibly useful once you have the 4 set, as instead of the 3 minutes that it usually comes up with, if you're doing things right, it's going to turn up every, say, minute and a half, which is just stupidly overpowered. It's insane. Also, please note that if you can, save this for when you're in your lunar eclipse. This maximizes your damage, and also if you're doing an AoE situation where Starfall comes in, being in lunar eclipse is really useful. Yes, Celestial Alignment does pop up and make it so that you're in both eclipses at the same time, but if you're going to throw out a Star Surge, it's going to be in the one that you're actually in. So you want that to be buffing up your Starfire. Now I also have a Starfall timer. Now this one simply just shows you the cooldown of how long the buff is up for. It's great for knowing exactly when you can refresh your Starfall for massive AoE encounters. Finally, I have my Flask buff. Now to be honest with you guys, I am simply the worst. I just am. I'm the worst at refreshing my Flask. My raid raids for 3 hours, and therefore I need 3 flasks per raid, as I'm not an alchemist. And so many times have I got to a point in the raid where there's about 30 minutes to go and I don't have a flask up. And so I have to use one. And this is I'm going to waste one because I haven't been using it for the last half hour or so. And it's just simply a waste. So this one shows me exactly that I need it. I need it up when it drops off. Now this one only shows up when I'm in a raid and in combat, and I do not have the flask buff. Those 3 things are very important. It allows me to capitalize on this. It's so simple and saved me so much shame. Number 4, Clique. This is a great add-on for healers or people of utility. It works very much like Healbot, where you create a clicking key binding for your UI, and I use it primarily when I'm healing, but it's also useful for a way to have your combat resist at an instant click of the button. just so you don't end up having to lose DPS. Or what the main reason is, you don't lose your target. In order to combat res properly, you need to select the new target, combat res, go back to your damage source. This way, you simply stay on your target, quickly res without losing your target, and continue DPSing. It doesn't save a lot of time, but if it saves you half a second to a second, that's a lot. To set this up, you simply open up your spellbook and click on this icon. You then navigate to your spell of choice and press the new key binding. In this example, I have my rebirth set to my middle mouse button. Should someone die, I just hover over their name, middle mouse click, bam, instantly cast. And that's all I have to worry about. Number 5. GTFO. You can guess what that stands for. GTFO is very interesting. Now I have this because previously I had to use my wife's laptop while my PC was unavailable, and the graphics are terrible on there. I couldn't see the stuff on the floor, and it was causing me to die at places that I wouldn't normally die. But now I have my PC back, and I don't need it, but it's just there because I'm used to it. Now, you don't need to set it up or do anything. When you're raiding or in combat, and you're standing in the fire, standing in stuff you shouldn't be doing, it makes the most annoying noise until you move. When you're out of it, it stops making that noise. Now, I really do not recommend enabling this as a tank. I mean, it's useful, because most of the time you shouldn't be standing in stuff, but there are some fights where you should. Now, for example, if you're pulling mobs into the AoE zones for like Korag, for example, now you should be able to do it without standing in the stuff, but we all know it's really easy to just walk in that void for a second or so, bring all the mobs in, and then you can step out. If you've got this annoying noise going over and over again, even for just that 1 second, but you have to do it every time you do that part of the fight, it gets annoying. Don't do it. Now, a special mention goes out to move anything. Now, this add-on does exactly what it says on the tin. You enable it, and you can move anything on the screen. Now, I said that Lvui does this, but it only does it for most things, and only the things that are affected by Lvui. For some reason, at the beginning of Warlords, Lvui did not move the garrison report icon. I don't know whether it does now, as I simply got move anything and moved it so it was away from my minimap. I put it just under the minimap, just somewhere out of the way, and I don't want to mess with anything. I don't want to get rid of move everything, find out it's wrong, then move it back. There's no point. But anyway, thank you for watching this video. Things have settled down a bit in real life, that's why I've not been putting out as many videos as I should have liked at this point. But now that things have settled down, I'm going to be churning out more and more videos in the future. Therefore, please like, comment, subscribe, and all the good stuff. And thank you for watching.